If you were here for Tuesday's episode, I hope that this week you have started to become a little bit more aware of your personal boundaries, and whether you have some intentionally in place or not, that you have started to realize maybe some things that don't sit right or make you uncomfortable or are time drains, energy drains, and some ways that you're trying to brainstorm how we can put some boundaries in place to help you with these different pieces in your life. So Tuesday's episode, if you have not listened, was titled "You Don't Have to Explain Yourself," and I would strongly encourage you to go back and listen. And today's episode that pairs with Tuesday's, but is a little bit more just reflective and supportive to that topic, is titled "This Is Your Permission to Stop Explaining Yourself." So if it is still something that you're struggling with, you're not quite sure how to not over-explain yourself because that's just what people are used to, and you don't want people to get the wrong idea, or you don't want them to be upset with you, this is going to be a great encouragement episode for some tactical ways and some reminders of why it's okay to have your boundaries and to communicate them in such a way that you are at peace with, even if the other party may not like them. So let's dive in. Are you too busy to prep healthy meals? Do you feel self-conscious about your body and your clothes not fitting right, but you don't have time to work out? Does your life feel unorganized and messy? Do you wish you had routines and habits that made health simple, even with your busy schedule? I know, I've been there. Hi, I'm Shannon Marquita, and no one ever really taught me how to eat healthy. I didn't know anything about nutrition, so I found myself eating whatever was easy, which definitely impacted my energy, weight, and focus. That's why I created this podcast, to show you that through healthy habits and time management, you can know you're doing health right. So stop scrolling social, clicking the ads, and buying all the things. Let's grab our Americano and pop in our AirPods. It's time to solve the real problem together. Welcome home. A fresh start awaits. Are you an over-explainer? Yeah, me too. Or at least I used to be. I've gotten a lot better, although sometimes the habit still creeps in. If someone that I care about, I can tell that they are disappointed or I feel like I am letting them down. But one of the funniest places that this often happens is on the tennis court. So if you have ever played tennis with me, whether singles, but usually doubles, and have been my partner, then you have definitely experienced this, because they always crack up at how funny it is, because mid-point, I will just say an entire paragraph, basically a very long apology, because I feel bad about the good stroke that I made or the point that we just got. And so although I'm kind of celebrating, I'm also feeling bad. And so I'm trying to rationalize about what just happened, or if I messed up, then also an apology to my partner, as if obviously the entire point being lost was my fault, which it wasn't, because it is a team effort. And I am so grateful for the partners in tennis that I've had over the years, because they always remind me of this. But it is healthy boundaries for communication to understand that mistakes happen, and having mental clarity and strength are extremely supportive when practicing your boundaries, and having good emotional health and communicating what you're feeling is really important, and that you don't have to apologize for your existence or for things that are important to you, and that the other person will understand. And even if they don't, you are at peace with your boundaries and your practices. So today's episode, this is your permission to stop explaining yourself, is one that is extremely powerful and just as much hits home for me, no matter what, as I hope that it does for you as well. So I want to start this episode with a gentle reminder to you that not everyone will understand your boundaries. I know we talked about this a lot on Tuesday, but I just think it's really important to remind you that they are your boundaries. And so not everyone will understand them, but that they aren't required to, because they're not living your life. This is your life. You are living it. You are responsible for it. And so these boundaries are also yours, just like others have theirs that maybe they aren't communicating or sharing. And even if they are, you may or may not agree with them or understand them. And that is also okay. So just like we talked about some on Tuesday, it is important to separate your emotions of guilt guilt and shame of your boundaries, because your boundaries you put in place, remember, because they're healthy, because they are supporting your goals. They are helping you grow and communicate and navigate life. And so you cannot feel guilty when you go to practice them or hold to them. Honestly, one of the things that I've noticed more commonly is that people tend to feel guilt, not because they necessarily think they're doing something wrong. It's just because this is new. So I know that I have felt guilty before because I feel like I'm letting people down and disappointing them, but I'm not. I am practicing healthy habits that are important to me. And so I have confidence and increased peace about this. And it is something new for a lot of people, whether those that are experiencing my healthy boundaries or new boundaries that I put in place. And this is going to be the same for you as well. So as you determine what your healthy boundaries are and you start to implement them, people are probably not going to like them. They liked you doing whatever they wanted. They liked you giving up your time at your own cost to them because they always benefited. And I'm not saying not to support people and not to show up for those in your life. I'm just saying in whatever category, whether time, communication, self-care, your relationships, you decide what is and is not okay. And then you have to hold to them even if you feel like others may not be on the same page or understand them. This is your life that you are accountable for. And so that's why it's also important to practice healthy communication, because as you're implementing these new boundaries, the reality is that they affect others too. And so especially those that are in your inner circle, in your family, you want to be able to communicate them in a healthy way with clarity so that if you want them to understand in depth, they do, and they can help support you. Or if the boundaries are also to help give you some space from some people that maybe aren't healthy relationships, then you need to be able to communicate just enough so that they understand where you stand. And again, all these communication pieces, you know what the right answer is. I do not. I don't know what your goals are. I don't know how you're trying to grow. I am here to connect, and we can do one-on-one coaching to take a deeper dive and help set up these healthy boundaries if you need help with what they should be, certain situations, what they need to look like, how to communicate them. But remember that the examples that I'm giving are pretty general because I need them to be able to translate into your life, and then you can decide with specificity what that looks like and what is needed from you to others so that you can hold to these and also communicate them as necessary. I want to offer you some reflection and journal prompts as well as some affirmations to go along with this week's topics, because boundaries can be uncomfortable. They can make you question if you are on the right track, if you actually should be implementing them. Maybe they're not really that important. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. If it's a big deal to you, then yes, you should be implementing them and practicing them. And the more that we increase our confidence and remember our worth, this gets easier. Remember, this is new, and so it can feel uncomfortable, unfamiliar, but the more that we practice them, the more confident we feel in general, but also with our boundaries and implementing them. So it just takes time, but this is another practice in trusting yourself. So the first prompt that I want to give you is, what's one boundary I've been hesitant to set and why? Where am I over-explaining just to be understood? How does my body respond when I honor my boundaries versus when I ignore them? What am I afraid will happen if I say no? What would change if I trusted that my no could be enough? These are really powerful, and I very much hope that you sit with them, and there can be more than one answer. But for what's one boundary I've been hesitant to set and why, this is very powerful because we might be afraid to set this boundary, but the more that we dive into the why and realize that it honors our priorities when we set this boundary and implement it, we start to care less about others' judgments and opinions of us because we know that what we're doing is for our own good, health, and growth. The next question about over-explaining to be understood is very important because if you're over-explaining just to be understood, it's out of fear and judgment. If you want to give a deeper explanation about why you're having these healthy habits and practices and implementing them, that is your decision and I support it. So know that none of this is to judge you and say what's right or wrong. I'm simply offering you some tips and guidance, but you have to take this information and make the decision for what is right for you and your life. And that's all all I am offering are suggestions and guidance and a roadmap as you navigate what's best for you. So over-explaining is only a thing if it's out of fear, but giving a deeper explanation out of choice and respect, that's your decision for where you decide and feel that that is appropriate. Sometimes it might be the best decision. There are some people that I go deeper with explanations and rationale because it's appropriate and necessary and it honors the relationship. And then there are other situations where you get the basic explanation because that's all that is necessary. And I know that it's still the right decision for me, even if the other party doesn't agree. How does my body respond when I honor my boundaries versus when I ignore them? And this is important because when you honor your boundaries, you feel very healthy and empowered and confident, and your body feels very at peace. When you ignore your boundaries, your nervous system freaks out a little bit and you feel stressed and you feel uneasy and you question what the other person's thinking and is this okay? And oh my gosh, am I doing the right thing? Or should I even be practicing these boundaries? And you start to spiral a little bit and freak out. And so that's where this question is really reflective and only you know the answer. But I really want you to pay attention to how you're feeling in these different situations. What am I afraid will happen if I say no? This sounds like a simple question, but it has a lot of layers because sometimes we don't say no because we're afraid of rejection, we're afraid of judgment, we're afraid of a lot of the reasons that we need healthy boundaries in place because we need to care about what we think more than what others think of us. And that is a huge step in maturity and growth. And so having healthy boundaries allows you to honor your priorities and what you say is important versus caring more about what others think of you than what you think of yourself. So the follow-up question is, what would change if I trusted that my no could be enough? It's that we trust that we're headed in the right direction, that we matter too, not just other people's opinions of us. And the more that you can learn to trust yourself, you are going to have exponential growth in all areas of life. Some statements of affirmation that I want to leave you with are, I can be kind and still choose myself. This is powerful because sometimes we feel like if I choose me, I'm being selfish. If I choose me, the other person is going to feel like they're not important or I don't respect them or I'm neglecting the relationship. And right there is such disbelief and lies that we have been telling ourselves. You can be kind and still choose you. You are a priority too. You matter. It's the age-old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup. You have to take care of yourself as well and have self-respect and allow yourself time to recharge and rejuvenate and just rest and refresh so that you can show up for others as well. I don't have to be understood to be clear. This goes back to the over-explaining because sometimes we feel like if we're letting people down or if there is a misunderstanding or if I wasn't clear enough, it's my fault and I'm such a terrible person and the relationship is never going to be what it was. And all of that is very self-directed and not giving the other person any type of credit or chance to show that they do respect us and they respect what we are building and working towards and having faith and confidence in the relationship and the other person. But also, if they don't understand, it's okay. It's okay to remind yourself that you are doing this for you and that if they don't understand, you can still have healthy habits for your life because it's not their journey and they may not need to understand every piece. Only you know who it's important to have an understanding with and where extra time and effort and communication may be needed. Lastly, and this is very important, so I want you to hear this, is my peace is worth protecting. And that is a huge reason for healthy boundaries because we have boundaries with our time, with our access, with the way we communicate, with our relationships, because our mental health, our emotional health, our relational health, all of the things help protect your peace, and protecting your peace helps you to have confidence, helps you in how you communicate and navigate and show up in life. And so protecting your peace is worthwhile and very, very important. So just remember, every time you honor your boundary, you remind yourself that you matter and that you are safe to be who you are and stand confidently in that truth. I hope you're doing well and have had a good week, and I will talk to you soon. If this podcast helped, challenged, or inspired you in some way, I would love it if you'd do me a huge favor and leave me a review over on Apple Podcasts. It helps me to hear from you and know how this is best serving you. And go ahead and screenshot this and share it in your stories. Tag me at Shannon Marquita. That's ShannonMarqueta. And send it over to a friend in a text who is ready for healthy changes in her life too. Let her know that this episode might serve her as well. I am just so grateful for you and would love to hear from you. Come hang out and let's connect over in my Facebook group, bit.ly.com/afreshstart, or send me a message. I look forward to seeing you back here in a few days.